Hi, my name is Anna Marie and welcome back to my channel. I'm a pet and wildlife artist, so if that's of interest to you, please carry on watching. So in today's video, I'm going to be starting off a tutorial with this gorgeous little cat. His name's actually Shark Boy, so he's actually my neighbour's cat, and he comes into our garden all the time, and I think it's because my little girl is starting to wean and she's dropping food on the floor. We're obviously trying to not let him eat it. But he's lovely, and I've asked his owner and they said yeah, that's fine, because I'm actually going to trial a newer size, so this smaller one here. So this is 5x5, so I'd normally do, my smallest would be 9x7, because I love just getting all that detail in, so I'm challenging myself to do something a little bit smaller, something that I can do a little bit of a quicker turnaround as well. So because some clients have asked me if I've done smaller, and I just haven't offered it at the minute, but I kind of need something that will something, you know, a little bit of a challenge. So I thought I would do a whole tutorial as well. So I'll do like part 1, part 2, maybe part 3, depending on how much I can get done. Right, let's get on with it. I'm just going to talk you through the materials that you're going to need to do this tutorial of the lovely Shark Boy. So obviously this is the completed picture that we've finished, so we're going to watch how to do that in a minute. But I just wanted to let you know the paper that I use. So I'm using Fabriano Artistico, but just a good quality drawing paper, something with lots of tooth on it. Let's have a little look at the pencils that you're going to need. So the Polychromos Black, the Polychromos Ultramarine, the Cream, the Earth Green, Cinnamon, Cold Grey 1, Dark Sepia, Cold Grey 4, Payne's Grey. Oh, that's a little mini. I had to replace it halfway through because it got a bit small. And then from the Luminance range, the White, Violet Grey, Silver Grey, and Raw Umber. If you've just got the Polychromos, I know lots of people just have this set. I do offer some alternatives as well from the Luminance, but these ones are really good. You know, if you did think about purchasing an extra couple of Luminance ones, they're quite expensive, but get those ones. We'll also be needing the slice tool for picking out all the details, and the Embosser as well to help us with his lovely whiskers. So I've used this on here to help get those little whiskers out. So the next couple of clips are just be showing you how to transfer your line drawing. A nice simple way to do it is to get your piece of paper, pop a little bit of graphite down, and pop it on. That's one option. You can draw over the top. You could do the grid method where you draw a grid on there and then you copy each area. Lightbox method, you could freehand it. So whatever way you want to get that line drawing on, you know, you do you. And once you've got the line drawing, then we can be away. So the next couple of clips, I'm just going to be just going through me doing the line drawing and the embossing as well. So the embossing will just be before we start drawing, getting those whiskers in. And then we'll be cracking on with the drawing. So yeah, really can't wait for you guys to follow on and then get, so I've got a little mount here, looks so cute. Yeah, so come draw with me, okay? Welcome to part 1 of this tutorial for a lovely black cat called Shark Boy. He's got a fabulous name. Next door neighbour's cat, and the children named him, if you know of the film Shark Boy versus Lava Girl. Pretty cool. Okay, right, I'm going to go in first of all, and just to find some of the sort of darkest sort of colours that I know aren't going to change. I always like to get in one of the eyes. So this is the first time I've done a very small portrait, so I am hoping that we'll be able to complete this one within a few hours. So let's see how we get on. So this is the Polychromos Dark Sepia. I use it in all of my portraits. It is a fabulous colour for just plotting in your very first lines. So we're going to go in and do around the eyeball, go into the iris, or around, well, where the iris meets the pupil. We're going to make sure that this little highlight remains nice and bright. You can see the guidelines here, and this is where you don't really need to rub out the graphite here because, you know, this cat is black, so it's going to pretty much cover it. Maybe some of the outer lines you might want to rub out later as we get onto them, but it should be okay here. There we go. Okay, now we're going to move on to the eye. You're going to hear my electric pencil sharpener. Right, I've zoomed you in a little bit closer as we go in with the cream 102 in the Polychromos. So I'm going to slowly start laying this down in small circular motions, because with the eye you really want to flatten the tooth of the paper and get it really nice and smooth to add to that sort of glossy look of the eyeball. Okay, and then we're going to use a little bit of the white in the Caran d'Ache Luminance. You could use the white Polychromos as well, but I just find that the white in the Caran d'Ache is a little bit creamier. So we go into that highlight. And now we're going to use a little bit of the earth green just to start picking up some of this lovely green that's coming from the eye. I'm making sure that I'm looking at the reference photo backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. And that'll really help you create the right colours, because you're drawing what you can see, not what you think you can see, which is a really common mistake that lots of artists do. They draw what they think an eye looks like. But when you're like zooming in, it's almost like an abstract drawing, because in realism in a way, because you're zooming in and then you're just following all those tiny little details. Right, now we're going to just pick up a little highlight, which is, I'm going to use the brown ochre, and Sharp Boy's got like a little wiggly line. Oh, this one needs to be a bit sharper. He's got a little wiggly line that comes in around like this and then down. A few little wigglies in here. Okay, now we're going to go back in with the cream to try and soften down that little wiggly line that we've just drawn. You can see it's softening a little bit there. And then another layer of the white. And then back in with the green. Sometimes when you're using a white to burnish, so burnishing is when you're sort of melding the colours together, you may need to go back in with the colours below just to help. I'm going to just bring this around like this to sort of, we're creating the illusion of a circular sort of spherical eyeball. And one colour that I really like to use in lots of my portraits, especially the eye, is a colour like the light Ultramarine in the Polychromos. This will be really good for just picking out a few of these little details. We'll just plot in the inner corner of the eye, which comes down like this. Because I can see there's a little bit of blue in there. So whilst we've got this colour, pop that in. And now we'll go in with the dark sepia again and darken up the outside of the eyeball. When it comes to coloured pencils, it's always really good and slow and steady. Just little bit by little bit to slowly build up the colours. And with the really black bits here, what we can do is also use a colour like the dark Indigo from Polychromos to add in a little bit more depth to the black. Layering colours like this underneath blacks will help them, you know, not appear flat. Right, lovely. I'm just going to use the Silver Grey in the Caran d'Ache just to get this highlight melding in a little bit and going over that little bit of that light marine that we put in around the iris. I think working quite small like this, I think you can't get every single tiny little detail in, but it's just, you know, you're trying to create the illusion of the eyeball. Right, I think at this point we'll go in and we'll do a little bit of the outside area, so we can see that this is really dark and then it goes out to a lighter. So what we're going to do is, where's my cold grey one there? I'm going to go in the cold grey one on the darkest parts. In coloured pencils, it's really important to think about the layering process. So I'm probably going to use the slice tool to pick out some of the details. So if I'm thinking, right, slice tool, I'm going to need a nice light colour underneath all of these dark colours in order to pick out the light first, because you'll be scraping away the darkest and revealing the lightest. So we'll put this cold grey one all around and then we'll burnish it in with a Luminance colour. And then in this top bit here, we're going to use the silver grey to help create a sort of sheeny shine. Yeah, that's nice and technical here. The paper I've chosen to use is the Fabriano, Fabi Dabby. It's really good. It's a favourite when it comes to loads of artists. It's just a really good all-rounder really when it comes to coloured pencils. It does take a little bit more work, like I don't know if you can see there is like a little bit of graininess, but you just got to keep working at it. It just holds loads of layers. Yeah, so the Fabriano, it just holds loads of layers, and I do use other papers. I don't just use this one, but it's just so it's a good one. Right, so I'm going to bring this over that black that we've done to help meld those colours together. I just find if you put the eye in a little bit and then get some of the fur around the outside, it can help bring it to life really quickly. Because I think there's nothing worse than when you're drawing and you've drawn for like an hour and you think, oh my god, I'm drawing a piece of fur. I just think it's a bit boring. I just think if you can get the animal to life as quickly as possible, then your motivation for drawing it will be increased. And also, just like the actual drawing looks more alive quickly. So I'm just swapping now in between the cold grey one and the Luminance, the silver grey, just to build up some base layers. Now this ear's got loads of like wispy ears in there. Wispy ears? Wispy fur. So I'm going to go in with the white in that one a little bit. Right, I can see a little bit of pink in there, so I'm going to use, oh hang on, I had it just a sec. Ah, here we go. A little bit of the, I'm going to use a beige red. In fact, I'm going to use a bit of cinnamon. There's a bit of cinnamon in there. And where I've already put a little bit of the blue, it will sort of take down the quite strong colour. I might even put a tiny bit over there. I'm trying to limit the amount of colours that I use as well, because I want this tutorial to be accessible and I don't want you to have to buy 1,000 pencils in order to create, because I'm quite bad for using a million colours, and you really don't need to. You can layer them. I'm just being lazy by not layering them. Okay, so now we've got the dark sepia again, and we're going to put a few little fur strokes in here. So, you have to imagine like this is the animal, and we're using lots of little fur strokes as this is getting like pushed up to the nose, and as it comes around the eye. So I like to work with a really light pressure and just slowly build it up, and you're doing little fur stroke flicks. Oh, it's just started raining again outside as well. Anyone else find that really relaxing? I sleep to Headspace app. It's a meditation app, but it has some lovely sounds on it. So I was going to bed with like the rainforest or frogs chirping. So I find when it actually rains and it's real rain, not my fake rain, lovely and relaxing. Right, here on the image it's got loads of white fur, so before I get a bit carried away there, I'm going to just make sure I've got a nice base layer of the Luminance white. God, this pencil is like an absolute dream. Like, I honestly can't tell you how many of these pencils I've got through. If you're thinking about getting into colour pencils and you're not quite sure, you know, I think they're just so expensive, and you think, oh, I don't want to risk spending loads of money on, you know, a full set. I don't have a full set of these Caran d'Ache because they're about £3 something each. Invest in, like, I've slowly built up my collection by just picking up colours here and there, but this is a good one. And the Silver Grey, that's a great one too. Sometimes they're good just to get the base layers in. Oh, there's another one called Titanium Buff, which is a really nice one for drawing blonde dogs. Right, and we're also, whilst we've got this one in our hand, we're going to go up into the ear with it and get a nice layer of white so that when we go in with our slice tool later, we'll be able to pick out all that lovely detail. The slice tool is so good, but I have to say that it is hard to master. I think some artists just think, oh my god, I'm not getting it to work for me. But it's all about what sort of paper you use, how many layers that paper can actually take, and how many layers you actually put down. So I know some artists use like really smooth paper. It's like a Bristol Smooth, I think. So they do like a super thick layer underneath, and then they may be doing like 5 layers and then just scraping away. But I don't know, sometimes I find it's a bit not as forgiving, so to speak. And we're just popping a little bit more white in there. We can lift this white colour a little bit later. I'll show you how to do that. Right, I'm pleased how that's looking. So we'll go get our dark sepia again, and we'll what I'm going to do actually is get a little piece of tracing paper, which I normally have a million pieces, or maybe just a piece of paper actually. Here we go, because I feel like I'm going to start rubbing out some of this. There we are, just to rest our hand on as we start building up. So I have gone in before with that Embosser tool, so hopefully if the tool works, if I press hard enough, it'll skip over those bits and give us those lovely whiskers. And sometimes what I do, if I'm doing white whiskers on white paper, I'll do them in like a cold grey one. I'll let you can see it there, it's like skipping over it. I'll do them in like a cold grey one, just to give them a little something. Right, I'm just going in really lightly with this dark sepia, just to give us the shape of Sharky's ear. Well, I have to say, so far it's a lot quicker doing doing a smaller portrait. Right, so we're going to bring the fur around the eye. So if you imagine, you know, the eyeball sits within a socket, so you need to sort of think about the anatomy of the animal and create the tones around, and the tones and the shadows around those shapes. So bringing that down here. Kind of seeing a little purpley tone. So what we'll do is that we'll bring in a little bit of that cinnamon that we used in there, just in here. So a light glaze. I hold pencils further back if I'm glazing because it will stop me from using a heavy hand. We'll glaze that in. And we'll use the Ultramarine as well to help deepen up a little bit more of a purple. Purple's great for black. Put a bit of the blue up here too, in the darkest areas. It gets really dark down here as well, but I'm not seeing the sort of more purpley colour. I'm seeing more of the blues. So we'll just use the blue here. Don't want to go too far in because we've got the muzzle going on there. We'll do the ear, we'll complete that before we move on down there. Okay, then a little bit more of this cinnamon. And then we've got the blue coming in here. And you might be starting to think, this cat's looking crazy. We've got blue, we've got pink. Like, I can't see that in the colour of the actual reference photo. But I think the more you draw, the more your eye sort of learns these shapes and colours, and you can start picking them out. I can hear there's loads of pink, but I want to make sure this layer of blue will keep this dark sepia dark, and then we'll get this cinnamon in here. I don't know why it's called cinnamon. I mean, it's pink. I don't know. Cinnamon, I always think of that as like a autumn colour. Like if someone described me a colour of cinnamon, I would probably think of like a orangey brown. I do love colour names though. I think they're fab. Some of them are like wild colours. And some of them are exactly what you think they are. There's one called like salmon pink, which is literally like a salmon. I might have to bring a purple in. See how we go with the pink and the blue, but I want to sort of challenge myself to have a limited colour palette as well. Because you can't just mix them on the paper, just being lazy. Right, I think we're going to need another cold grey actually, because we need an in-between. We need an in-between of this cold grey one and the dark sepia. So we'll go for cold grey 4, and that will help enrich the colours. Oh, hang on, before we do that, let's finish off that dark sepia. This is something that I do a lot. I get a bit distracted. I end up not finishing bits, and this is why what I'm hoping to sort of starting these tutorials will be really beneficial for me as, you know, furthering my art tutoring, because it will help me focus more and sort of slowly building up like my own confidence. Like I've got all the knowledge, but it's, you know, you think, oh, you're actually teaching someone something. So I think a lot of people have loads of knowledge, but it's actually trying to get it across to people that can be quite challenging. Right, let's bring this really dark bit here. Bring that in. To make sure that you're getting this little corner bit going on in here. So I'll link the line drawing and the image as well underneath, so that you can use that if you'd like to draw along with me. Probably should have said that at the beginning. You get halfway through, you're like, yeah, that would have been handy to know half an hour ago. Right, so now this is the darkest. We're going in with the cold grey 4. The Polychromos have a fabulous range of greys. So they do all the cold greys and all the warm greys in 1 to 6, I think. And we're going to use this colour on this lighter piece. Up here. You can see my sort of pencil strokes. Sometimes I'm doing more detailed ones, sort of flicking sort of on and off the paper, and sometimes I'm sort of more shading. There's no point in going in with really fine detail at the very beginning for the whole thing, because you'll end up just layering it and burnishing it out. I do like going in with detail a little bit, you know, just to get the feel of the animal. But why make more work for yourself when coloured pencils do take a long time? Okay, we need, you can see the shape of his, eyelid and his little eyebrows. Go up a little bit more here. You can see I use this colour a lot because it's like a little one. Okay. Right, so we'll go up into this ear. I think we'll do a layer of the cold grey 4 first. I might have to bring one more Caran d'Ache in, which is this burnt sienna 10%. Or should I use the violet grey? I think I'll use the violet grey. And I promise that should be the last one that we need. Violet grey and this one. Just because I really think that would be nice to blend all those in up there and within the ear. So I'm going to start sort of putting in these little, very little shapes. Right, so now we're going to go in with the cold grey 1 and just build up some of these layers. Just do another little glaze and soften down that blue that we've done. Okay. Right, where's my cold grey 4? I'm going to start bringing in some of the fur lines, which connects the ear onto the head. Using sort of fur-like strokes. And building up the darkness. And that harder line around the ear. So I'm using a harder pressure on the very edge. And then as I'm going in, doing sort of elliptical shading and getting a little bit lighter towards the end. Towards the middle. And as we're doing this, we're slowly getting rid of the tooth of the paper. So that sort of graininess, which on this paper, the Fabriano, you will need to work a little bit harder. Sometimes I'm drawing for hours, my hand's like, I'm pressing hard. But the key is to sort of only press hard towards your last layers, because the harder you press in the lower layers, the less pencil the actual paper will take. So like as the tooth slowly starts to disappear, you'll get less pigment down. So you want to, especially like a black cat like this, you want to make sure that your hardest pressure is on your darkest pencils. See, that embossing tool's worked really well. You can see that whisker. Oh, is it a whisker if it's coming out the eyebrow? Eyebrow whisker. It's sort of showing up nicely. So we'll get that violet grey. Where did I put it over here? I'll do a little bit more to blend those together. Oh, it's looking really nice. I think sometimes with black cats, you think, oh, you know, that'd be easy, black on white paper. But it's trying to create the depth and the richness of black fur, which using purples and blues will definitely help you achieve. I feel like the Luminance and the Polychromos are like a little match made in heaven. They work really well together. And I think the Pablos, if you've heard of those ones, it's a Caran d'Ache pencil, but it's kind of, it's not their version of the Polychromos. They're almost like the Polys and the Luminance have had a baby, and it's little baby Pablos. So they're still creamy like the Luminance. So the Luminance are wax based, and the Polychromos are more oil based. But the Polychromos you can get harder lines on. So I think I'll probably just use one one Pablo in this portrait, and that'll be the black, but it's a really nice one. But maybe I'll show you the black and the Polychromos as well. So, it's an alternative one. You could just use the black, because it's nice to think, you don't have to buy all of the colours to create this one portrait. I started off with like a little set of the Polychromos. I just bought like a little pack of 12 to see if I like them, and then quickly realised, oh, I love these. So then I went on and bought the big set, which is like, excuse me, 120 colours, and it's fairly reasonably priced. I think I got it on sale maybe on Jackson Art. Did I get it from Jackson's Art? I'm not sure. But yeah, I got it on sale, so it was a little bit cheaper. And yes, there's colours that I haven't actually used yet, but it was, instead of just buying all individual ones, I just think that set is definitely worth the money. because the Polychromos are around, they're around like £1.80, £2 each, rather the Luminance are about £3, £3.50. It doesn't sound a lot, but you know, if you're using 10 pencils and they were all Luminance, you know, you're talking 30 quid. Right, so we're drawing for over half an hour now, and I feel like we've made an amazing start. So sometimes the beginnings of portraits do take a little bit longer, and you can speed up as you get the feel for the fur. I kind of feel like this is a little bit too round, so I'm going to bring up a bit more of a point up here. This thing, even though, you know, you do a line drawing, it's really important to keep on correcting and looking at that reference, because you're not going to be spot on, even if you are doing a line drawing. I'm going to just blend that bit, can't see, this bit here, with a slightly sharp. I'm going to just sharpen this one again. Just to get that nice and smooth. So my husband's just got back with the girls, and Violet's so cute. She's got a new t-shirt and it says "Future Artist, Be Kind," which is really sweet. It's really nice to sort of be showing her that you know, being creative and having a creative job is a possibility, and me being that role model to her. She's only 4, or she'll be 5 soon. So, you know, I just think when I was growing up, I just didn't have those sort of role models, just because, you know, or apart from like my art teachers, really. My family were all fairly creative, but actually being a career, I think it was, you know, back then it was more academic all the time. But, well, that's maybe a bigger question for another time. Just want to show my girls that you can do what you want to do and always do what makes you feel happy. So with my portraits, I always hope to, you know, give people kind of the warm fuzzies, really. I'd say that's one of my main aims when I'm drawing, when I'm doing a portrait for someone, or if I'm doing like a little original like this. Capture the spirit of the animal. Oh, Sharpboy's got like a long whisker that's coming out here. Hopefully we can get that in with a slice tool a bit later. Right, oh, I forgot to say, I'm in with the black Polychromos. And I'm going to get a little bit harder pressure now. To create the illusion of those little white hairs coming out of the ear. And the sort of coned shape, the curved shape of the ear. So often, you know, when you're drawing, you don't need to get the colours spot on, but you do need to get the tones correct. So sometimes what's a good little tip is sort of blurring your eyes when you're looking at a picture, and you'll be able to see some of those shadows. Right, we'll go back into the eye now. And we're going to darken up all of this. Because what we haven't done on the eye yet is create the shadow of the eyebrow. lightly in to this top bit and darken up the top of the eye where the eyebrow like comes over, and then the natural shadow of the eyebrow. And there's, if you look closely at the reference photo, we've got a few little hairs coming in with shadow. Darken this down here as well. It's looking good. Put this black up here. I want to get this nice shape. Right, should we go across maybe and then down? And I've put a little bit of blue in there, but I think what we'll do is we'll go maybe across to this section here, because it is looking really nice. We've got this nice little shadow. I think this needs bluing up a little bit. So, get a little bit of this silver grey in. But again, if you go in with a kind of like a light one over the dark, so you're going to have to go back in with the dark again. Get a little bit of that in there too. Try and, even when I'm doing base layers and I'm sort of like loosely shading, I'm still trying to go in the direction of the fur, because it will just help you get your head into the portrait, if that makes sense. I think I'll do the under the eye bit, just so he doesn't look like he's got a big bag under his eye. Okay, and then back in here. So there's slightly different fur texture. It's a little bit softer, not softer, flatter, I would say, underneath the eye. So I'm just sort of shading in the right direction. And that cold grey for same motions, sort of flattening this bit of fur. We'll put some details in a bit later. Under the eye. I might even put a little bit of this violet grey under here, just to bring that eye to life a little bit more. I think it's all around here. Okay, how are we doing time? So 45 minutes so far. That's not bad for me, who I just take ages. Okay, let's crack in the more base layers. So what did we do? Cold grey 1, didn't we? Cold grey 1 around the eye. Onto his little forehead. We'll put a bit of the cold grey up into his ear. I think we'll use the slice tool. Oh, I suppose I could go in there, but well, maybe we'll do both ears first so we can use the slice with both. Now, this side of Shark Boy's face is a little bit lighter because the light was hitting this way, hence this little highlight in the eye. So we just need to be mindful of that as we're drawing. In the reference photo, he's got like a little bit of gunk in the eye, but we're just going to get rid of that. I mean, if I was having a portrait done, I would want someone to Photoshop out gunk in my eye. So we'll do that for Shark Boy. Probably should lift out a little bit of this graphite in here. Sometimes you just don't need to, because you know you're going to do so many layers, you're just going to go over it. You just want to make sure that it's correct. Right. So we'll get a little bit more base coat in there. Oh, you know what, actually, that ear will go with a nice white. Give it a nice flat base. Because this ear, looking at both of them, it's a little bit whiter, the highlights that are in there. And we'll bring the white just to help us with those base coats later. Coats like a Spain. Base layers, I should say. Right, now silver grey. I'm really liking the size of this portrait. It's super cute. I'm sort of thinking, like, if I had a portrait this size, it'd be really nice to put on like a desk if I'm in an office space. Something that you'll be able to, like, on the mantelpiece, and where you'll be looking at it a little bit closer. Or you could hang it sort of above maybe a little hook where you keep, you know, their collar or little treats or something on a little hook. I suppose for dogs you'd have a little hook for a lead. What do you have for a cat? Maybe put it on the door to the little cupboard you keep the food in. Right, let's plot out this eye because it's getting a bit mishy-mashy here. Technical, mishy-mashy. But what I mean by that is the colours are getting... I'm losing the line drawing because I'm doing the base layers. And even though the line drawing, you know, I can't rely on that, I still can just use it to help me plot in a little bit more accuracy. These little bits, because this eye is a little bit more complicated than the other eye. Just where there's a little bit more highlight. Go around here. What's that bit? We've got that corner. The outer corner of the eye, Looking at the reference photo, this is much, you can see a lot more of this bit of eye. It's a lot bluer. I just use tiny little strokes like this to slowly build up the right shapes. And then going in with the pupil. I feel like sometimes when I do this, I'm like holding my breath. I definitely hold my breath when I do like whiskers. So say if I've drawn like a blonde dog and then it's got black whiskers. I've just done a commission on, it was a husky Malamute cross. Oh, they were so gorgeous. And it had like black whiskers and I had to like get the pencil and be like, whew, put a big one. So I was like, hold the breath. And that's the sort of thing that you put it down, it's down. There's no rubbing it out. So just put a little bit of this edge in. So this little bit here is where there's like a little bit of gunk or something, but we're gonna just Photoshop that bit out. But if we put this in here, that'll help us bring the eye together. I feel like it needs to be a little bit rounder at the bottom. Right, let's use that dark indigo again, just to put another layer on the black, on the darkest areas. It's got quite an interesting eye, because he's got almost like, the iris is almost like a black line around it. Right, lovely. Okie dokie. Right, let's get this cream out. This is called cream, but again, is it really cream? I mean, it's a yellow. For me, cream is a much, much lighter colour. This is almost like lemon meringue. We've got to be careful here because this is sort of quite glossy, this little bit over here. Again, it's so easy to get carried away. I might just get a little bit of this yellow back in here. Right, now we'll go in with the green. He's got a few little squigglies that we'll put in with the brown ochre that we used on the other squigglies. Yeah, what's the name for those little squiggly bits on eyes? There must be an official name. Hang on, we don't want to lose this highlight here. Oh, hang on a sec. Alright, we'll do those little squigglies now. So he's got one come in over here. Then he's got this one come in, wiggly wiggly over here. Right, nice. Just realised we need to do a little bit more black up here. Not black, dark sepia. I don't want to lose that highlight. And then we'll blend it all together with the white from the Caran d'Ache. Put a little bit of this in that highlight as well. In the eyeball I tend to use like small circular motions just to try and blend all of those colours together. And the whites of the eyes aren't really white at all. There's often lots of greys and some blues, sometimes pinks in there. Right, lovely. So now we'll get the green back in the eye. There's some like little flecks of blue as well, so we'll put those in a bit. And this sort of top left corner of Sharp Boy's eye is a little bit more dappled with green, so we'll get that in. Right, let's get the blue. What's this blue? There's some blue in here. And a little bit more blue sort of dappled in here. This is more like a grey, so I'm going to just use a really light hand with the cold grade 4 and get that in there and up here, and then go and use the silver grey in the Luminance to blend it. And this highlight here, it's quite a tricky one really, because it's sort of a almost like a semicircle. So I think this needs to be darker. Right, let's go in with the black. Oh, you know what? I'll go in with the Pablo. The Pablo black is a lovely one. It's really dark. With a lighter hand, we can darken up this area up here. This little area's the shadows coming from the eyebrow, and even maybe the ear actually, where the light's coming in from this direction. Sometimes it's good to do these bits, you know, once you've got some more. I tend to I'll do an ear, then go back to the eyes, and after all the whole portrait's done, I'll go back in and darken bits up, because you want to make sure that overall your darkest bits of your portrait are actually the darkest, which sometimes you can't see if you're sort of working on little bits at a time. I know some artists will do a whole portrait where they do all the base layers, all the midtones, but I've just never been able to work like that. so I sometimes have to flitter. There's a line in here, and that's a shadow from my pergola outside, because I took a photo of him in my garden. Sometimes when I'm doing portraits, I can see the reflection of the owners in the eye of the animal. So sometimes it's quite nice to get those in. I need to lighten this bit up. I'm a little bit too dark in there. So what you can do is get your kneadable eraser, make it into a really thin point and just lift a little bit out. These kneadable erasers are great. They're like £3 pound. I just lift that pigment up. Right, back in with the white just to smooth that little bit out. I went a bit heavy on. Right, over here we need a little bit more colour, so we're going to go in with the earth green. This is a really, really good colour of the Polychromos. I use it a lot actually for eyes. And sometimes fur as well, where the picture of the animal has been taken on grass. And it sort of reflects a little bit, like within the fur. Right, let's build up some of the eyebrow. So we'll go in with the Cold Grey 4, that sort of mid-tone, the one in between the Cold Grey 1 and the dark Sepia. And just build up this eyebrow. So here I'll be using little fur strokes. Now he's got it's a little bit here that we need to be mindful of. So I think what I'll do is block out a little bit with the white, so when I do put any more colour on it, it'll be a little bit lighter. It's the same colour as this little bit over here, this sort of eye, is it part of the eyelid? Yeah, I think so. And it's a slight pinky colour, so we'll get that cinnamon again, and we'll put that in. Just to make sure we don't go too dark on those areas. And that pink will show through. So this is the first tutorial that I filmed on my new camera, which is the Sony ZV-1. So I'm really hoping that the quality is good. Fingers crossed. You know, it's a bit of a minefield really when it comes to cameras, because there are so many out there. So I did a little bit, obviously I did quite a little bit of research, a lot of research to be fair, of sort of other YouTubers, other artists, what they use, and this one seemed to come up fairly high. It's been out for a while, so you know, it's had like a good tryout by lots of different people. I mean, good old YouTube. I mean, you you can just go on there like how to do this, or what's the best thing to do this, and you know, people have made videos about it. I'm hoping that it's got all the detail that we need, well, that you need to follow along. Right, so the cold grey 4, we're just going up into the ear now, like we did before over here. Right, I'll just put a little bit under here, just to start bringing these eyes out. Well, not out, but in. Right, here we go. Right. Up into the point of the ear. And we need that violet grey again. Where did I put it? We're going to get that in the top and in the middle of the ear. Okay, we'll use that cinnamon as well. Where the light's shining through the back of the ear. This one's making sort of the outer part quite pink. And I'm going to use that blue on top of the cold grey 4. Could have done this the other way around like we did on the other ear, but it'll work both ways. So that'll enrich the blacks that we put on the top. Maybe I should do a video of portraits without all these underlayers and portraits with. That might be quite interesting. I get this blue in the darkest areas as well. You could even, I'll do it over here on this dark area, get the indigo. Sort of helps enrich them. The indigo and the Pablo black, they're quite a good little duo. But I think this I will get this indigo in here. A bit down here too. Just for the furs, just a touch darker. And this bit's really black up here. Got the violet grey again. I'll just put that over the blue to knock it back a bit. Well, knock it back, I mean like dull the colour down just a touch. And I'm going to put this violet grey in the bottom of the ear, where the ear sort of sits on the head. That's quite interesting seeing, you know, where you've got your light and your mid-tones and then the darkest there, and how different it makes the portrait. Right, let's go with the dark sepia. And let's plot out the shape of this ear. We'll connect them up in the middle. afterwards. In the reference photo there's like a little, looks like a piece of like stray fur around here, but we'll get rid of that little bit. And when you're doing portraits, you don't have to do them exactly. I always find that I want the animal to look as best as they can, so I'll get rid of little eye boogers, little random bits of fluff. Oh, when dogs have that thing called cherry eye, I've got rid of that before. Like, I had one dog who had like a little wart on the end of his nose. They were like, yeah, take that out. Not that there's anything wrong with blemishes, but it's important to listen to the client and do what they want you to do. And I always want the animal to look as cute as they can. Right, so it's sitting on the head here, so we'll bring these fur lines around like this. And I'm going to use the cold grey 4 to go over all of this to blend it in a little bit better. Or a darker patch here we can put in. Okay, now back in with the violet grey. Blend those colours in a little bit more. Again, I think I've gone a little bit too round on this ear, so let's get the dark sepia and just I'm going to have to change this pencil soon, it's getting a bit small. I've got these little thingies, the little pencil extenders. Maybe let's put that on before my hand starts cramping. Oh, that's better. Try and get a bit more of a sharper line on the edge there. That needs blending and moulding in. That's something that the Luminance is good for. Some artists use solvents as well, and I do use solvents sometimes, but you can often burnish with the pencils. Just noticed a little shadow that could be the violet grey over there. Right, back in with the ear. I think it needs a bit more pink down there, so we use the cinnamon again. I'm having to press a little bit harder now because the amount of layers the paper will take is getting almost a maximum, especially in these areas. Hopefully if you've got like a black cat at home, you might be able to use these techniques to, sort of after you've drawn this one, to draw your own animal. I'm just going to go in with the cold grey one just to plot in this top bit of the head where the ear meets the head so it doesn't get lost. Oh, that happens all the time. The end pings off because I'm pressing too hard. There. I think that's going to need a black soon. We'll do the dark sepia on this bit and then we can go in the black with all of it. Putting in the eyebrow. There's a darker area here. Make sure you get that in. And then the fur comes around that little pink bit that we put in earlier. Probably could use a kind of Payne's grey on this portrait, but I don't want to add any more in because I feel like we've got enough pencils. Oh, that would be, what should I add one more in? Where's the Payne's grey there? Yeah, the Payne's grey is like a, it's like a blue-grey. Oh, I just think that's a nice one, isn't it? Just to blend the darkest parts in with the rest of it. And as that comes down there, add a bit of that in. Right, let's get the black. We'll use the Polychromos. The darkest part of the ear is up here. Sort of increasing my pressure a lot more up here because we want to make sure these dark bits are the darkest areas. It comes round. And this area here of the ear. There's like little tiny hairs coming off. So we'll get them in. And then so harder pressure on the edge, and then I'm loosening off the pressure as I'm getting into the middle of the ear, like we did before. Right, let's tidy up the top of the ear now. I don't want it looking mishy-mashy. My technical words. How long have I been drawing for? About 2 hours. That's It's not bad for 2 hours. I'm gonna have to speed up for the rest of it, mind. If I want to do just 3 hours, no, oh yeah, 1 hour, I'm not going to get that done. I reckon this will be 5 hours, but we'll see what we can do. So we're going to darken up this eyebrow. This area here is one of the darkest of the portrait, the eyebrow. You also want to make sure that you don't make certain areas too dark, because I've done that before and I've actually just made the animal look really angry. Right, let's just join this little bit up and tidy this area in the middle. So use our silver grey. And the hair on the nose sort of meets in the middle. So we'll use our cold grey 4. That's our like middle tone. I'm going to do the nose next, so we don't want to get into that quite yet. Just focus on getting all this top part of the head done. So as we're using this cold grey 4, we can go over the black lines that we've done and sort of start smoothing them out and blending it all in. I think what I'm going to need to do is use the dark sepia to start doing little tiny fur strokes just to get the direction of the fur correct. Because it comes up here by the eye, sort of meets in the middle. It's darker on this side. This, when you're drawing animals, it's just so important to always be looking at the direction of the fur, especially around the eyes, nose, in the ear. Otherwise you could, accidentally, create almost like a different looking animal. The texture is so important. I always envisage myself petting the animal, or like how it moves, how it feels, to help me create that illusion. Cats on this little bit, they're always really smooth, aren't they? Right, cold grey 4 again. This will make a bit more sense once we get the nose in. I can see this area here now is just a little bit too light. So I'm going to sort of glaze it with the cold grey 4. And darken up this little bit here. Before we go back in with the black inks. So I'd say either the Pablo or the Polychromos are good. I'll go between both, just so then, you know, if you have either, just shows you can use both. I don't think I used the Polychromos in here. Darken that bit up. Around the nose. Right, a few whiskeries in there. So this is almost complete, I think, this top bit. I feel like this eye might need just curving out a little bit. Yeah. That's better, and then a little bit down there. Sometimes it's like the tiniest little marks make such a big difference to the overall feel of the portrait. I feel like this has gone mishy-mashy. Mishy-mashy, I mean like it's blended together too much, so it's lost the definition. Oh, nice. Looking cute. I do really like drawing cats. I get a lot more dog commissions than I do cats, but I do really love drawing cats. They're so different to dogs. Right, let's go in with the slicer. So I'm gonna I find with the slice tool, it's good to move the portrait round to what you feel comfortable drawing. So I'm right-handed, so I prefer to scrape in the layers like this. Oh, please excuse my thumb. I'm trying not to show it on camera. It's so gross. I had surgery on it and the nail's fallen off, and so just ignore it. Don't think, ooh. Right, so we'll use the rounded edge. So that's how you would cut, like this. So you turn it and then use this area. We'll put in those little fluffy. And also with these bigger whiskers, we'll just scrape them out a bit more. Sometimes when I use the slice tool, I think, oh, am I actually doing anything? But when you look back and you look at the overall effect, it's really nice. There we go. And then we'll turn him. Right, so, right, we'll just finish doing the slice tool and then that'll be it for this little section. Right, I've done that side. Now we'll do this side. So we'll just put in that eyebrow whisker and we'll get a bit of texture in here. A few other little wispy lines up there. we go. So that is it for part 1. Right, join me again and we will focus on the nose, the mouth, and then hopefully get all that done. So I'll quickly pop it in the little mount. Let me zoom you out. Ooh, that's zoom in. Move this out of the way. So you can see that it's slowly coming together. It's going to be like that. There we go.